I watched my parents put my sister's name on my birthday cake. That's when I knew I was done with this family. I'm Madison, and I was standing in my own backyard watching 50 people cheer for the wrong girl on my 18th birthday. The MC was literally announcing Sophia's name while I stood there invisible. Again. Here's the thing. This wasn't some mix-up. This was intentional. Let me back up. Growing up in our Austin house, attention always flowed one way. Straight to Sophia. She never had to ask for it. It just came to her like she had some kind of magnet. I learned early to stay small, to not get in the way of all that spotlight. I was 8 the first time I really got it. Sophia had this cheer competition and Mom spent the entire morning on her, curling her hair, putting glitter on her cheeks, pinning this massive bow. I stood in the doorway holding my own hairbrush, waiting for someone to notice me. They didn't. Dad walked right past me to hand Sophia her water bottle. "Madison, be helpful," he said without even looking at me. So I did. That became my job, helping her shine. By middle school, it was routine. Sophia talked, I listened. She won stuff, I clapped. She needed something, I carried it. At family dinners, relatives would pull her into conversations about her future, her looks, her potential. When they turned to me, their questions felt thin. "How's school? Still drawing?" Then they'd drift right back to her like I was just filling dead air. The moment that really broke something in me happened when I was 15. I'd spent weeks making this scrapbook for Sophia's birthday. Sketches, watercolor corners, layouts I worked on every night. I wrapped it in brown paper with twine, feeling proud for once. She opened it in front of our parents, flipped maybe 2 pages, then stopped. "It's cute," she said, already looking at the new tablet Mom had just handed her. But Mom bought me something real this year. She set my scrapbook aside and the spine bent when it hit the table. Something inside me bent too. That night I tore out one page, a sketch of a room I'd imagined designing someday. Tall windows, soft light, a chair facing sunrise. I kept that page. The rest went in my closet. As we got older, the imbalance got worse instead of better. Sophia got a car at 16. I got to help her pick the paint color. She had friends over, I brought snacks. When relatives visited, they asked about her grades, her prom plans, her college applications. Mine were afterthoughts. Mom used to say I was independent, the kind of daughter who didn't need much. It sounded like praise until I realized it was basically permission to overlook me so they could save their energy for the child who demanded more. Dad told me once, "You're steady, Madison. Sophia's fragile. She needs us more." But fragility never stopped her from stepping on everything in her way. By 17, I'd learned to read our house like a map. The loud rooms belonged to them. The quiet ones were mine. I stopped asking for things, rides, help, attention. Silence became easier and safer. But somewhere under all that quiet, a tiny part of me still waited. Waited for someone to look at me the way they looked at her. For a chance to be seen without having to earn it. I only realized how stupid that hope was the night of my 18th birthday. The heat that night wasn't just summer air. It stuck to me the moment I stepped into the backyard. Those string lights made everything look like I was watching someone else's life. I stood near the edge of the crowd, hands still sticky from arranging candles on tables. Mom had handed me a lighter earlier and said, "Make sure everything looks perfect before guests arrive." She didn't say happy birthday. When the MC tapped his microphone, conversations stopped. People turned. Let's give a huge cheer to Sophia, celebrating her 18th again. The crowd erupted. I didn't. For a second, everything went blurry. The lanterns, the voices, Sophia's bright smile as she stepped forward in this white dress she'd bought just for tonight. My eyes found the cake. 3 tiers, frosting like marble, her name written across the top in gold. My name wasn't anywhere. I felt Mom touch my arm. "Don't step up," she whispered. "It'll confuse people." Confuse people. At my own birthday party. I looked at Dad. He didn't meet my eyes. He was clapping too loud, the way people clap when they're pretending nothing's wrong. Sophia made a wish. Cameras flashed. Guests chanted her name. Someone near me said, "She looks amazing. This is so her night." And that's when I understood something sharp and simple. This wasn't my celebration accidentally taken over. This was theirs, intentionally reassigned. I lifted my glass halfway like I was joining the toast, then set it down. Nobody noticed. Then I turned and walked away. Past the laughter, past the music, past the house that had never really been mine. Barefoot on warm pavement, my dress brushing my knees. I didn't run. I just kept walking until the music faded into nothing. That was the last time my family ever saw me. They just didn't know it yet. The bus that picked me up at the main road didn't ask questions. The driver glanced at my dress, at my bare feet, then back at the road. I was grateful for that. When the door closed behind me with a hiss, it felt like a line being drawn. I took a seat near the back. The engine rumbled steady, and for the first time all night, there was nobody telling me to smile, to be quiet, to stand aside. Somewhere between Austin and the next town, I pulled out my sketchbook and found that old page, the room with tall windows and a chair facing sunrise. I flipped to a blank page and started drawing again. That drawing was the first draft of the life I was about to build. Queens was all I could afford. A narrow room with peeling paint, a window facing a brick wall, and a radiator that made noise whenever it felt like it. I paid the deposit with my summer internship money, $600 total. When the door closed behind me, the silence felt open instead of empty. I set my sketchbook on the windowsill. The space was small, but it was mine. My days became pure survival mode. Opening shifts at this coffee shop called Grind. Steam rising from milk pitchers. Wiping tables until my hands hurt. Jazz playing through old speakers. Every night I took online classes on my laptop, building digital models between the sounds of traffic and thin walls. I didn't talk much to anyone. In the city, people barely looked at each other anyway. That anonymity felt like a gift. The work was hard, but it was different from home. At Grind, when I did something right, I got paid. When I worked extra, I got extra. Simple math. No games, no favorites, no wondering if I mattered. 3 months in, I was wiping down the counter when this older woman approached me. She had this way about her that made you pay attention. Calm, but sharp. Like she saw things other people missed. She pointed to a napkin where I'd unconsciously sketched a corner of the cafe. "You drew this?" she asked. I nodded. She studied the lines for a long moment. "You see the room, not just the objects in it. Most people can't do that." Her name was Isabella Ross. Later, I'd learned she was known for turning abandoned warehouses into homes that actually felt like homes. That day, she just handed me her card. "Come by the studio. I might have space for you." Isabella's studio was a converted warehouse with brick walls and afternoon light pouring through skylights. She looked through my sketches, all of them spread across this long oak table. Her finger paused on that page from the bus, the imagined room. "You build from absence," she said quietly. I didn't ask what that meant. I got it. The internship she offered paid almost nothing, $200 a week, but it gave me access to everything. Tools, wood scraps, fabric samples, empty rooms waiting to be transformed. I kept my coffee shop job for rent money and worked at Isabella's studio every afternoon and weekend. I swept floors, labeled materials, learned how light behaves against stone, how texture can soften things you don't name out loud. Isabella didn't praise much, but when she did, her words stuck. "You work like someone who's had to earn every inch," she told me once. "You understand quiet space. You design with memory." I started building furniture from reclaimed pieces, a table from old beams, a lamp from rusted copper, a chair that creaked like it remembered something. Every project felt like rebuilding myself in fragments. The routine was brutal but good. Coffee shop at 6 a.m., studio from 2 to 8 p.m., online classes until midnight. I lived on ramen and coffee, wore the same 3 outfits, walked everywhere to save subway money. But I was building something. Year 2 was when things started clicking. Isabella let me take on small client projects, a lawyer's office remodel, a couple's living room update. Nothing huge, maybe $5,000 to $10,000 each. But my cut was enough to quit the coffee shop and focus full-time on design. I moved to a slightly better apartment, still Queens, but with a real kitchen and windows that actually opened. I bought a used car for $3,000. Small victories, but they felt massive. Year 3 was the turning point. I'd been posting my projects on Instagram. Nothing fancy, just photos of spaces I'd transformed with simple captions about the process. The account grew slowly but steadily. People started reaching out. That's when Marcus Torres found me. He was a tech entrepreneur, made his money early with some app I'd never heard of. His Manhattan penthouse was gorgeous but felt cold, like a showroom nobody actually lived in. He wanted it to feel like home. "I've seen your work online," he said during our first meeting. "You make spaces feel like breathing. That's exactly what I need." The project was worth $2 million. $2 million. More money than I'd ever imagined touching. But Marcus wasn't just buying a renovation. He was buying a story. He wanted the space to reflect his journey from broke kid to successful entrepreneur. I got that. I spent 6 months on his penthouse. Custom furniture, reclaimed materials, art from local artists he'd never heard of but fell in love with. When it was done, the space felt warm and honest and alive. Marcus loved it so much he threw a housewarming party and invited 200 of his closest friends. That party changed everything. When the photos went live on Marcus's social media, and he had millions of followers, my phone started ringing. Celebrities, executives, people with serious money who wanted what Marcus had. They didn't just want good design. They wanted transformation. They wanted their spaces to tell their stories. I quit Isabella's studio. She hugged me and told me to remember where I came from. I rented a proper workspace in Soho. I hired 2 assistants, then 4, then 8. Madison Studios was born. The money wasn't just money. It was proof. Proof that I existed, that I mattered, that I could build something beautiful from nothing. 3 years after leaving home with $600, I had a business worth $500,000 and a waiting list of clients who paid 6 figures for my work. But the real victory was still coming. Year 4 was when everything exploded. After Marcus's project went viral, my calendar filled up fast. A Grammy-winning singer wanted her recording studio redesigned. A hedge fund guy needed his Hamptons house done. A famous actress hired me to redo her daughter's nursery. Each project was bigger than the last, and the money kept climbing. I wasn't just designing spaces anymore. I was designing lifestyles, stories, dreams. And people were paying serious cash for it. By the end of year 4, Madison Studios was pulling in $800K annually. I had a team of 8 people working out of a 3,000 square foot space in Soho. We had a waiting list stretching 6 months out. I was 22 years old and employing people twice my age. The crazy part? I was good at it. Really good. Not just the design stuff, but the business side too. I understood what my clients wanted before they did. I knew how to price projects, manage timelines, handle difficult personalities. All those years of reading rooms, staying quiet, figuring out what people really needed, it turned out that was exactly the skill set for running a high-end design firm. Year 5 was when I started thinking about the Penthouse. I'd been living in a nice apartment in Brooklyn by then. 2 bedrooms, exposed brick. The kind of place that would have been a fantasy when I was sleeping on that radiator in Queens. But I kept thinking about that sketch from the bus. The room with windows facing east, the chair turned toward sunrise. I wanted to build it for real. The penthouse I found was in a pre-war building on the Upper West Side. 3,000 square feet. Floor-to-ceiling windows facing the Hudson River. Original hardwood floors that creaked with history. It needed work. A lot of work. But I could see what it could become. The price was $10 million. 3 years earlier, I would have laughed at that number. Now I was running calculations in my head. Business revenue, my savings rate, the equity I'd built up. It was aggressive, but it was doable. Here's what nobody tells you about making real money. It's not just about the number in your bank account. It's about options, choices, the ability to say yes to things that matter and no to things that don't. I made an offer that day. The renovation took 8 months. I designed every inch myself. Sustainable materials, soft light everywhere, built-ins that looked like they'd always been there. The kitchen had this massive island made from reclaimed barnwood. The master bedroom had windows on 2 sides so you could watch both sunrise and sunset. And in the main living area, facing those Hudson River windows, I put a single chair turned toward the east. The same chair from my sketch, the one I'd been drawing since I was 18. Moving in felt surreal. I kept walking through the rooms thinking, this is mine. I built this. Nobody can take it away. The penthouse wasn't just a place to live. It was proof. Proof that the girl who wasn't worth a birthday cake could own something worth $10 million. But the real moment, the one that changed everything, came 6 months later when I got invited to do a TED Talk. The theme was resilience, and they wanted me to talk about building a business from nothing. I knew exactly what story I wanted to tell, but I'd never said it out loud before. Not the real version. I practiced the talk maybe 50 times. In front of my mirror, in front of my team, in front of Isabella, who'd become like a second mother to me. Each time I told it, the story got clearer, sharper. The day of the talk, I wore a simple black dress and stood on that red circle in front of 200 people. My hands were steady. My voice was clear. I want to tell you about a girl whose 18th birthday was stolen from her, I began. Who walked out of her own party because her name wasn't even on the cake. I talked for 12 minutes about invisibility and silence, about what happens when you stop waiting for other people to see your worth and start building it yourself, about the power of walking away from people who diminish you, even when they're family. I didn't use names. I didn't need to. The audience was silent the entire time. When I finished, the applause felt different. Not just polite, but genuine. People came up afterward with tears in their eyes, telling me they'd lived versions of my story. 2 days later, the video went live on YouTube. Within 24 hours, it had 100,000 views. By the end of the week, it was at 1 million. People were sharing it with captions like, "This is what healing looks like," and "Every invisible child needs to see this." My inbox cracked open. Interview requests, speaking opportunities, articles wanting to feature my story. Architectural Digest wanted to do a spread on the penthouse. Forbes wanted me for their 30 under 30 list. But the messages I paid attention to were the personal ones. Women writing to tell me they'd been the invisible child too. People saying my story gave them permission to set boundaries with toxic family members. Teenagers planning their own escape routes from homes where they didn't matter. That felt better than any magazine cover. Then, 3 days after the talk hit 1 million views, my phone buzzed with a text from my mother. "We saw the video. Sophia is upset. Maybe you should check on her." No acknowledgement of the talk itself. No recognition of what I'd built. Just the same old gravitational pull toward Sophia. I stared at that text for a long time, sitting in my penthouse living room with the Hudson River sparkling outside my windows. Then I deleted it without responding. Some patterns are meant to be broken, not fixed. But my family wasn't done trying to pull me back into their story. The real fireworks were just getting started. Dad's email came next. "Congratulations on your success. But please understand, your sister feels targeted." The familiarity of it stung more than the message itself. Even now, even with my face on magazine covers and my business making headlines, it was still about protecting Sophia's feelings. I deleted that one too and kept working. The next morning, my assistant Luca came running in with his tablet. "Madison, you need to see this." A gossip blog had posted an interview with Sophia. The headline read, "Sister of viral designer. Says, people don't know the real story." I almost didn't click it, but curiosity won. "She exaggerates everything for attention," Sophia said in the video, sitting in what looked like our old living room. "We always treated her well. She left because she couldn't handle being compared to me. The internet doesn't know the truth about what really happened." She looked perfect, of course. Hairstyled, makeup flawless, that same bright smile that had gotten her everything her whole life. But something in her eyes looked desperate. "Madison was always jealous," she continued. "She made up this whole victim story because her business needed publicity. I hope she's okay, but people shouldn't believe everything they see online." By evening, the wildfire had started. Screenshots of the interview were everywhere. People were digging through years of Sophia's old social media posts, finding contradictions, calling out inconsistencies. Comment sections turned brutal fast. Her Instagram went from heart eye emojis to fire emojis overnight. Someone found photos from my actual 18th birthday party. Pictures Sophia had posted herself showing her in the white dress, standing next to a cake with her name on it. The date stamp showed my birthday, not hers. "The audacity," one comment read. "She literally stole her sister's birthday and then calls her the liar?" I watched it all unfold from my penthouse living room, sitting in that chair facing east. I didn't engage, didn't respond, didn't add fuel to the fire. I didn't need to. Truth has its own gravity. Once it starts moving, it pulls everything else along. Within a week, Sophia's brand partnerships started disappearing. Companies don't want to associate with controversy, especially the kind that makes them look like they support family abuse. Her follower count dropped from 500K to 200K. The comments on her remaining posts were so bad, she had to turn them off completely. Meanwhile, my TED Talk hit 5 million views. Hotels were calling about designing their lobbies. Brands wanted collaborations. My waiting list stretched into next year. 3 weeks later, I got an email from Sophia. Just one sentence. "I didn't know it would hurt this much to be invisible." Not an apology. Not taking responsibility. Just the first honest thing she'd said in years. I read it twice, then deleted it. Some endings aren't meant to be softened. The real victory came 2 months later. Architectural Digest wanted to do a feature on my penthouse for their Rising Stars issue. The photographer spent a whole day capturing the space. The reclaimed wood kitchen island, the sustainable materials, the way morning light poured through those Hudson River windows. But the shot that made the cover was simple. Me sitting in that chair, the one I'd been sketching since I was 18. Finally built, and facing east toward the sunrise. The article talked about my journey from an overlooked teenager to one of New York's most sought-after designers. They mentioned the TED Talk, the business growth, the celebrity clients. But what I loved most was this line: Madison Caldwell has built an empire from silence, proving that sometimes the most powerful response is simply succeeding. The magazine hit newsstands on a Tuesday. By Thursday, my parents had seen it. Mom sent a card to my office address. Somehow she'd found it. The envelope was addressed to Madison Caldwell, successful designer like she was trying to be cute. Inside was a Hallmark card with both their names signed. "We're proud of you. Maybe we could talk?" I held that card for maybe 10 seconds, then dropped it in the trash. Pride from them felt like fool's gold now. Shiny but worthless. 6 months later, I opened the Madison Caldwell Foundation. We provide design services for women's shelters, helping create spaces that feel safe and healing instead of institutional. We also offer scholarships for kids from dysfunctional families who want to study design. At the launch event, held in my penthouse with views of the Hudson sparkling in the background, I gave a short speech to 100 donors and supporters. Some people think success is about proving your worth to people who never saw it, I said. But real success is building something beautiful without needing their validation at all. The crowd applauded, but I wasn't really talking to them. I was talking to that 18-year-old girl who walked away from a party that was never hers to begin with. Today, Madison Studios employs 15 people. We're booked solid through next year with projects ranging from $500K to $5. My penthouse is worth $15 now. The renovation and market appreciation turned my $10 investment into something even bigger. But the real measure of success isn't the money, or the magazine covers, or even the business. It's sitting in this chair every morning, watching sunrise over the Hudson River, knowing that every single thing I can see belongs to me because I built it. My parents still send cards sometimes. Christmas, my birthday, the birthday they forgot when it mattered. I don't open them anymore. Sophia's social media presence never recovered. Last I heard, she was working at a boutique in Austin, trying to rebuild her influence one Instagram post at a time. I don't follow her. I don't need to know. Justice doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it stitches itself quietly through consequences, through success, through the simple act of thriving in a space they said you'd never deserve. You don't have to go back to the place that erased you to prove you exist. You can build forward instead. The girl who wasn't worth a birthday cake now owns a life they couldn't imagine. And the best part? I didn't have to destroy anyone to get here. I just had to stop letting them destroy me.